Talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend. Recognize that making a mistake does not make you a mistake. Even though you are probably harder on yourself than you are on anyone else, the way you treat yourself is a choice. Choosing to treat yourself with compassion and understanding can help you practice forgiveness for both others and yourself. Today is a new day. I am Nikki G, your host. Welcome to the Lone Doctrine, a safe space to bridge the gap between your authentic self and your mental health. We are your food for thought exploration station in order to make today better than yesterday. This month, we've been talking about self-acceptance. Now, self-acceptance is different than self-esteem. Self-acceptance is the good, the bad, the ugly, and the awesome. It's really diving into who we are, what makes us, us, what makes you, you, and really finding that authentic, genuine acceptance. Now, sometimes this can be really, really hard because we're all human. And sometimes we have the pressure of family, of friends, of society, of expectations, whether it comes from ourselves or it comes from others. This pressure is constant, and in different countries, the pressure can be heightened. Now, I have to make a confession. If you are a consistent weekly listener, I apologize that I missed last week. And very rarely does this happen, but life has kind of been chaotic, and there have been so many things happening. And with everything that's happened this last year, I've even lost track of what day it is. So, my apologies for not being with you next week, but I wanted to be real with you and let you know there's a lot of things going on in my family, and there's a lot of things going on with my puppy. Any good vibes you could put out there would be greatly appreciated. We have a lot of people fighting a lot of different things health-wise, and our puppy goes in for surgery by the time you hear this, probably right now. And so there's just been a lot of things happening in life that I needed to attend to. And not to say that this is less important, but it was just something that I actually had to work on, having the self-acceptance to realize that I too am human, even though I hold myself at such high, probably ridiculous standards, that this was an opportunity for me. And I say it all the time, sometimes when we come up to the inevitable challenges that life will give us, sometimes when we feel like we've made a mistake or we're not good enough or we fell behind, those moments, I encourage you all the time, and I'm having to really practice what I preach right now, of seeing those moments as an opportunity. And it was an opportunity for me to realize that I am human. It was okay that I missed a week, because I know that every time I am with you, I not only honor this time, but also feel this time as a privilege. And I have the genuine good intention of helping and being a support system for as many people as possible. Sometimes in life, we need a hand, and sometimes in life, we need to lend a hand. And I needed to take the time to fill my cup and support my family and support my puppy in order to get us through these challenging times. So I appreciate your patience, and I appreciate your understanding, and I appreciate you walking with me in this journey of self-acceptance. So talking about the pressures of self-acceptance, whether it comes from other people, society, your workplace, something I found along the way that is a key aspect and something we talked about last week. And if you haven't tuned into last week, I encourage you to do so, because throughout the month, when we talk about our topic of the month, I string them all together in little pieces, little food for thought, so that you can go back to the beginning of the month and listen again. Because when it comes to topics of betterment, there's always little seeds that you may not hear the first time, or you may not be in a place to hear them. And what I mean by that is that we're constantly growing and we're constantly changing. So the great thing about personal development is that you could read the same book or listen to the same podcast over and over again or at different points in your life, and you'll take different things away. So I encourage you to go back, because the one key thing, the biggest element through all of this journey of self-acceptance is self-forgiveness. And if we can find it within ourselves to forgive ourselves, then we're able to consistently grow. Now, I'm not usually one to divulge in all my hardships because I'm not ever looking for pity, but I also want to encourage people that talking about these things and breaking the stigma of these things is so important. There is so much stigma when it comes to mental illness. And when you go to different countries, the vast differences of how, say, the US views mental illness and, say, Europe views mental illness is so very different. The more we talk about these things, the more we can get through these things, the more we can understand them, and the more we can not only help ourselves, but we can help others. Here at the Lone Doctrine, we like to give you action steps. So we talk about all these subjects, but I'm a firm believer that we have to take action. It's one thing to listen to it, it's one thing to read it, but it really won't take hold in your life unless you implement it, unless you practice it, unless you take action. These are steps that I've found and explored that I also take myself, and I continue to explore to see what works not only for me, but hopefully what can work for you. So in my explorations, I found 7 steps towards self-forgiveness by Keir Brady. Number 1, define forgiveness. Having a clear definition of forgiveness and what it means to you is an important first step. Your definition could stem from your religious beliefs, your family, or your personal ideas. When you define what forgiveness is, make sure you are also clear on what it is not. If you believe that forgiveness releases you from responsibility or means that you are not at fault, it will feel like you are letting yourself off the hook. Understanding forgiveness as forgetting or moving on as if nothing happened will keep you stuck in shame and denial. This is why it is important to have a clear definition of forgiveness. Perhaps forgiveness can be defined as a decision to acknowledge that you are flawed and made poor decisions. But instead of continuing to punish yourself and wallow in the shame, you are choosing to treat yourself with compassion and understanding so you can learn from this experience, accept the responsibility for your actions, and grow in ways that will encourage effective change. Number 2, acknowledge your feelings. In order to forgive yourself, you need to acknowledge your feelings, not deny them. Set aside time to focus on your feelings without judgment. Name your emotions and allow yourself to experience what you feel. You can feel anything you need to feel, and these feelings don't have to define your responses. This might be difficult, but you will not be able to let go of your feelings of guilt and shame until you acknowledge them, feel them, and allow yourself to work through them. It is normal to experience remorse when you have caused pain for someone else. Acknowledging these feelings enables you to gain a deeper understanding of what occurred. Ignoring your emotions can lead to more regret, which can make self-forgiveness very difficult. Number 3, acknowledge what you did. You can't really learn from your mistakes unless you are able to acknowledge them. Acknowledging what happened and taking responsibility for your part in it allows you to gain insight into why it happened. Put judgment aside and look at what actually occurred and your role in the situation. When you learn the lessons related to what you did, you can also take steps to avoid doing it again. Living in denial keeps you from owning up to your own mistakes and learning from them. Likewise, replaying the incident over and over again keeps the focus on what went wrong, instead on what you learned. If you can acknowledge what behaviors and actions led to the problem, you can take the steps necessary to make effective changes. Number 4, apologize. If your actions caused someone else harm, apologize. A heartfelt apology to someone you have hurt can go a long way towards self-forgiveness. It will probably be difficult to truly forgive yourself if you still feel as though you need to make amends with someone else. While you can't anticipate how your apology will be received, saying sorry to the injured party can help you let it go sooner and find forgiveness for yourself. If you hurt someone else and are unable to apologize to them, writing down what you would like to say can keep you from repeating it on and on. You can write out an apology to yourself as well. For an apology to seem sincere, you need to admit to what you did wrong, explain why you regret it, acknowledge the pain you have caused, and describe what you plan to do differently in the future to ensure it is unlikely to happen again. Number 5, focus on what you learned. It is much easier to learn important lessons when things go wrong than when things go right. If you can focus on the learning experience and what you will do differently going forward, you may find your self-forgiveness more appropriate. When you know what you did and the consequences, you can make a different choice going forward. Sometimes this type of lesson is learned most effectively when you mess up. It is normal to get caught up in what you did wrong, but you may not learn much from this if it is your only focus. By focusing on what adjustments you need to make going forward, you can grow from the experience. When you can view it as a hard lesson learned, you may be able to start forgiving yourself. Number 6, make meaningful changes. In order to forgive yourself, you may need to make some changes. Acknowledging that your actions caused a problem is only the first step. You also need to change your behavior. If you continue the problematic behavior, you are not taking responsibility for what you did. Only changing the behavior can lead to the possibility of a better outcome. For example, if you are continuously late for work and feel bad about this, you can change this by leaving a little bit earlier. If making a behavioral change won't help the situation, you can make a meaningful change in a different way. You could volunteer, share your story with others, or work to devise a future solution. Paying it forward is a good way to shift your focus from what you did wrong to what you are doing about it. And number 7, practice compassion. Just as you show compassion for others, you can show compassion for yourself. Continuously beating yourself up about something that has already happened and can't be undone reinforces the negative. This can lead to a troubling self-perception that you are a damaged person who is not worthy of grace. Instead, you can treat yourself with kindness and acceptance. Talk to yourself the way you would talk to your best friend. Recognize that making a mistake does not make you a mistake. Even though you are probably harder on yourself than you are on anyone else, the way you treat yourself is a choice. Choosing to treat yourself with compassion and understanding can help you practice forgiveness for both others and yourself. While forgiving yourself may not be easy, it is very important to your emotional health. As we move forward throughout the year, I want to keep encouraging you to keep stepping forward. When you misstep, as we all have, as I did last week, it comes down to your willingness to learn, to grow, to constantly strive to be better, and most importantly, to keep fighting the good fight.